Today's presentation is going to be about the historical politics of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and Ali alayhi salam, and how they ran their governments and how they conducted themselves with people and some other things. So, firstly, we're going to look at the points which are going to be examined and discussed. Their mercy in their policies towards everyone, even their enemies. Their modest lifestyles, their brilliant and just policies, um, what the warfare would have been like, and the failures of other systems during this time. But we're going to first look at the definition. The definition put in the book by Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi is essentially politics is defined as organizing people's life affairs in the best and most comfortable fashion. And this is what Allah Azza wa Jal means when He says, and He will relieve them of their fetters that they used to wear. So the politics of the Arabs at the time was very not good to say the least. It wasn't exactly a good system to live. So Allah Azza wa Jal sent a better system for the Arabs. And this is what we will be examining today. But why are we discussing this? Islam was sent as a religion that encompasses everything. If you are a practicing Muslim, you know this very well. You know that we are told what is best for us to eat, what we cannot, what is best for us to eat, what we cannot eat, what is best to drink, what we cannot drink. We're told how to use the bathroom, how to do pretty much everything. Allah has not left us unguided in anything. He has delivered us something for every single little part of our lives. So He has essentially made recommendations for everything. He has forbidden proper Islamic country. So He was very into giving gifts. He would give gifts to the Muhajirun, the Ansar, the people of Medina, villagers, people living outside of Medina and Mecca, so to the Muslims, the Munafiqeen, and the non-Muslims. He would be giving gifts to everybody, and we will later also establish that rulers are not allowed to accept gifts from people. So He would be gift giving all the time to everybody. It didn't matter if you were Muslim, not if you were pious, if you lived inside the cities, if you lived outside the cities. Regardless of where you were being supplied. Rasulullah many gifts to people. Here's the story about the Jewess. So when Rasulullah was poisoned by the Jewish woman of Khaybar, the one who fed him the poison lamb which caused him some pain. I'm not going to get into if this has killed him or not. This is a topic completely opposite of what we're discussing today. But when she poisoned him, he asked her why. And she said, pretty much, if he was a prophet, it would not kill him. There would be no harm to him. And if he was to be a king, it would have killed him. And the people would be rid of him. And Allah's Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, forgave the leader of a country. Poisoned. He's poisoned. And the person he finds who poisoned him, he doesn't just immediately, arrest them or kill them. No. He asks for the reason, and then he realizes the reason is a good one, and he lets them go. You imagine any leader in the modern day doing this? Do you imagine one leader today genuinely forgiving somebody who tries to assassinate? No, you can't. No leader would do this today. After Uhud, some of the companions wanted Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and told him essentially, we think you should pray against the polytheists, you should pray for their destruction, and they should be punished. And essentially, the cursor, he was sent as an inviter to the message of Allah. He was sent as somebody who invites, he does not curse, he does not insult, he was sent as a mercy. Ya Rasulullah, we lost the battle, and Allah answers your prayers. Pray for the destruction. And he said, no. Imagine. They killed Hamza, his uncle, his beloved uncle, Hamza. They killed Hamza in this battle, and he refused to punish any of them. He Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa made a dua that they should be destroyed and that they should have nothing good come to them. He could have had this happen, no problem. But he chose to be merciful with them. He was not sent as a person. He was sent as somebody to come and establish justice, establish mercy among the Arabs. When they had no mercy, they had none of this beforehand. But during the conquest of Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ gathered the Meccans and called out to them, "What do you think I'm going to do?" They said, "You are going to do good to us. You are a kind brother, the son of a kind brother." The Prophet ﷺ said, "I say to you, as my brother Joseph said, there shall be no reproof against you." So these people who oppressed him for years, I don't remember specifically how many years, but from when the message started up until then, they were fighting him, oppressing him, doing him harm. He stopped and he's like, "What do you think I will do to you?" And they said, "You will show us mercy. You are a kind person. You are a truthful, kind person." And he's like, "Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do." He didn't punish one person from the people of Mecca after he conquered. Imagine a modern leader on his rise to power. People abuse him. They attack him. They fight him. The second he gains power and gains a hand over them, what's he going to do? He's going to oppress them. He's going to kill them. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was not like that. He came to establish a system of mercy. A system in which, regardless of you being an enemy of him, you were treated fairly. You were treated the way you were supposed to be treated. You were given your basic human rights, even if you were an enemy. You were an enemy. And we will look more into this later on the section about Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. The story where a Bedouin comes up to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And keep in mind, this is after the conquest of Mecca. So he controls all of Arabia pretty much at this point. Probably one of the most powerful countries in the region. The arrogant and ignorant Bedouin comes up to him while he's walking, grabs his collar and pulls it, and it left marks on his hand. So if any of you ever got in your shirt caught on a door and it pulled and it made a mark on your neck, something similar to that, but it was with force from a man. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he really listened to him. The man said, "Muhammad, order that I be given out the wealth of Allah which is at your disposal." And not only did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam give him the wealth which he needed, forgive him for his transgression. Imagine, would you be able to go to your prime minister, your king, your president, pull on their shirt enough to hurt them, and then demand something from them that you need, and they would give it to you? They would forgive you for your transgression against them? Could you name me one modern leader who would do that? The one leader in history who would do that besides the Muslim leader? You cannot, because nobody would do this. Nobody in the present day or the past would ever forgive a random Bedouin, a random man from outside of the cities, who works on farms, works on this, works on that, works on stuff which is not seen as prestigious. And he comes in aggressively and pulls on his clothes, hurts him, and asks for something, and he's given it. This will never happen anywhere except under Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Nowhere in history. Nowhere in the modern day, nowhere in history at all. So, with Awarth ibn al-Harith and Abu Sufyan, even after Mecca was conquered, and trust me, these people were some of the worst opposers of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi. They hurt him, they attacked him, they caused people to want to kill him, they caused the killing of his uncle Hamza, they caused the blood of many Muslims to be shed. They tortured Muslims, they did all sorts of evil things to the Muslims. Every single historical report shows they were not oppressed, they were not harmed after Mecca was conquered. Imagine, like I said before, there's a revolutionary in some random country. He takes power, he's going to immediately punish his opposition. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was merciful to them. He didn't punish any of them, even though he would have been right to do so. He would have had every single right possible to do so, and he would have been justified in any of the punishments he gave them. But he was not harsh with them. He did not hurt any of them. Let that sink in for a second. There was no harm to come to people who have harmed him. After he took power, people were forgiven for their transgressions. Obviously, punishment still remained in place, as they always have to, but people were mostly forgiven for their previous transgressions. Could you imagine one country today doing this? No, you cannot. Because no country would do such a thing. So, his steadfastness in incorruptibility was something special. This story is famous, but I think it's the best story to show this. When the polytheists came to Abu Talib alayhi salam, they told him, your nephew, he's causing issues with us. He's insulting our idols. He's promoting this new religion. He's bringing our kids away from our religion, the religion of our ancestors. And we will pay him anything. If he wants to be a king, we'll make him a king. If he wants money, we'll give him money. If he wants women, we'll give him women. And Abu Talib alayhi salam goes to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and he's like, the polytheists want you to stop preaching. And he's, I swear by Allah that if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in the left hand, in my left hand, on the condition that I abandon this cause, I will not do so. You see today in many countries, a leader is given a little bit of money from somebody, and immediately they're doing all of their interests. They get corrupted by a little bit of money. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was offered everything. He was offered women, money, power, and he refused it for the sake of being just, for the sake of promoting the truth. Not one leader on the planet today, not one, is able to actually be incorruptible like this. I have not, except for Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and the Imams alayhim salam, who were as incorruptible as this, to the point where they could be offered everything on the planet, and they would say, no, I only want to preach the truth, I only want to preach justice. We also see that he mixed a lot among the people. He used to walk in their funeral processions. He used to visit the sick. He would accept invitations from slaves when they would invite him to visit them. And he would run around on a donkey. At Khaybar, Rayda, and that was tied up with a rope of palm fibers, and the back saddle was made out of palm. So he's not living exactly what we would call a lavish life. Some kuffar will try to say, oh, well, he got all this power and money, that's why he did what he did. No. We can see from his life, he lived a very modest life. His house was small. He rode on a donkey. Okay? In Arabia, where camels and horses and everything, obviously he had a camel, we all know this. But he would ride around on a donkey as well. But he could have had the most excellent of horses. He was the leader of the most powerful, had the most beautiful horses, most beautiful camels, but guess what he chose? He chose to ride around on a donkey. He chose to ride around on a donkey with a very modest saddle. And whenever he passed by a group of people, he would greet them first. So when he would see Muslims, he would always, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum. He was always the first one greeting. He was very involved in the community. Last week, I believe, we covered this already, how involved he was in the community. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to ask later. He would always be the first one to greet. He would always beat his companions to greeting him. His companions would be like, okay, we're gonna finally get him this time, we're finally going to greet him. And guess what? He would somehow greet them first. Could you imagine a leader greeting the individuals of his country before? You see today, when you visit your leader, you kiss their hand, you kiss their head, you give them all sorts of praise before they even say one word. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he was always the first one to greet the Sayyid. He would always be the first one greeting everybody. Rejected kingship as well. There was a man who came to him, and the man was shaking, like scared. He was physically scared because he felt he was entering the presence of a king. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, what did he tell him? What did he tell him? Take it easy, calm down. I'm not the king. I am a man. I am the son of a woman who used to eat sun-dried meat. I don't even know how to describe how humble this is to you. Just internalize it and realize we don't have any leaders like this today, who are so humble to the point where when people enter their presence and the people are scared, they feel like, I'm entering the presence of a king, I can't mess up. Nobody would reassure them and say, listen, I'm just a man like you. I came from the womb of a woman. I came from a disgusting liquid. Nobody will say that. They would be like, oh, look how the people are scared of me. This is proof of my power. This is how many leaders are today. Of acts of modesty. He would never pull his hand away from shaking hands with someone until the other person pulled away first. He would never walk away after making a matter or discourse clear to someone until the other person walked away. He would never pull away from a conversation and fall silent before the other person had, and his foot would never be stretched out in front of a person sitting with him. He would make sure any instructions he gave were clear. He would never pull away his handshake first. He would really, this is the best example in my opinion for a leader. Somebody who is modest, somebody who is helping the people, somebody who is reassuring the people. Not somebody who is causing issues for the people, not somebody who feels they are better than the people. So, he would never call for somebody more than 3 times. He would always speak alone, meaning that he wouldn't talk over others. He would wait until they're finished talking. And he always asked permission 3 times before doing something. So for example, let's say the Prophet ﷺ came to you and said, hey, can I borrow this from you? And you said, yes, sure. He would ask again and again, 3 times, before he made sure if it was okay for him to borrow it from you or for you to do something for him on his behalf. And the people the option to follow him pretty much. They could all easily say, no, I don't want to do it, and he would do nothing against them. He would ask 3 times. Nowadays, a leader comes to you and says for you to do something, you best do it. There's no option to say no. He would make sure people knew they had an option to say no to him. He never forced anybody. Nobody was ever forced to do something on his behalf. Nobody was ever forced to really do anything on his behalf. He would always ask 3 times, as I said, and he would never, ever force. So now we're going to be looking at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and his government. So, we all know him. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was very, very modest. He said, I swear by Allah, the world of yours is worth less to me than the intestines of a swine in the hand of a leper. Do you know what this means? Leprosy is rejected by society because it's contagious, the person does not look well, and it's a very deadly, dangerous disease. He's saying the hands of a najis or intestines of a najis animal and the hands of somebody who can give you a disease is worth more to him than the entire world. And we are going to see exactly what he means. Ali alayhi salam governed for 5 years, and he did not lay a baked brick upon another or an adobe brick upon another. He never allotted himself an allotment, or he didn't leave behind any white or red. So this basically means he didn't leave behind a lot of money. He did not really give himself any land. He didn't really benefit himself from the government. He was incorruptible. He made sure people benefited from the government. And here's a quote from him: we are nothing but untanned sheepskin on which Fatima alayhi salam and I would sleep at night, and upon which today we would feed our camel. So he's sleeping not on a bed, not on a bed, not on a sleeping thing, not on anything comfortable. He's sleeping on a sheepskin, an untanned sheepskin. Oh, essentially a blanket. Essentially a wool blanket. This is what he used to sleep on. He rejected all forms of personal benefit from the government. He would not enrich himself via the government. He would not improve his standing via the government, and he didn't even benefit Hassan and Hussein through the government. He didn't even leave them an inheritance from the government, and he didn't take land for himself when he was the governor. Keep in mind, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he was running a country which stretched from Morocco to Pakistan, across most of the known world at the time. The most powerful country in the world, and he did not benefit from it once. If he wanted to, he could have taken $1 million a month as a salary, and it would have not hurt the empire, but he chose not to. He chose to make sure that the people benefited instead of him. He was an extreme. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when he saw a poor person who had lost his sleeve was gone, it ripped off, it fell off, whatever. He took his sleeve off and gave it to the person. Imagine this. When we see that, when we see the other leaders before him and after him, such as Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and Muawiyah and Yazid. They didn't help anybody in this way. They never give to charity. We see leaders today. They give to charity, of course, the publicity stunt. I can assure you, every single president of all of your countries is rich. They're rich, and they don't really give to the poor for the sake of giving to the poor. They give to the poor for the sake of looking like they give to the poor, for the sake of looking good in front of the people. I can assure you this. But Ali alayhi salam was turning to the people of Basra. He said, "O people of Basra, what do you have against me?" And he points to a chart and says, "This is from my wife's spinning yarn." So he didn't buy his own clothes. He made them at home. He didn't buy clothes. And we'll explore this a bit later. There's a story where Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was in part of Iraq, north of Najaf. And it gets cold in the sense that cold for an Arab, not cold for people living in Europe or North America, but cold in where you would need to put on, like, let's say, a hoodie and some pants in the modern context. He was only wearing an izar and a nizar. And when his companions told him, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you're freezing. Go buy some other clothes. Go buy some clothes so that you may, not be cold, so that you may be comfortable." He said, "I have come with what I have come with, and I will leave with what I have come with." So he came with only the izar and nizar, and he was only going to leave with this as well. He refused to go out and buy new clothes, even though he had the option to. As I stated previously, this was the most powerful country, most powerful empire, and the most rich out of all of them at this time. The Silk Road went through it. They were making tons of money off trade. They controlled pretty much most of the known world, as I stated. So it's a very rich country. He could have taken 20 dinar from the treasury to benefit himself, but he refused to. And somebody said that their father went to see Ali alayhi salam, and he would shiver. Oh, this is the story I already mentioned. We always provide for the poor. No one in Kufa fails to wake up in the morning in comfort. The lowliest of them would eat wheat bread, and they would sit in shade and drink from water from the youth. Amir al-Mu'mineen was only eating barley bread, which is an inferior form of bread from wheat bread. It's even said, and I don't know how authentic this is, so do not quote me on this, but Amir al-Mu'mineen would only eat meat once a year after Shahr Ramadan. He would never eat meat after. He would never eat meat before or after. Why? Because some people in the empire were not able to eat meat all the time. On solidarity with them, he didn't either. He refused to as well, because of the people in his country suffering as well. Imagine, do you know of any contemporary leader, of any modern leader, who did something similar, to where if his people didn't have something, neither did he? To where he would not take one bit from the treasury to benefit himself. He worked for every dinar he had. Alayhi salam received some money near the evening, in the night, and he told his companions to go give it out to people. And they said, "Yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's very late. People might not be able to find it. We're tired." And he said, "Do you think I will live till tomorrow?" And he told them, "Go and hand out the money the second he got it." He would be giving money to the poor. He would be making sure that the poor were provided for. There's another story where he used to go to the orphans of Kufa, and he would give them food. And when he was assassinated, they went to him with milk because the doctor said that milk would benefit him. So he used to be very giving in charity. He would not shy away from charity. He was a very caring leader, a leader which would always be giving to. So he would always dismiss the corrupt as well. A woman came to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and she basically said that was being corrupt. The man who was taking taxes from the people was being corrupt. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam do? He called him to him and fired him right on the spot. No questions, he fired him. He prayed against him and fired him. He was very committed to justice. One of the judges of the commander of the faithful, Abu al-Aswad. Abu al-Aswad was a very eloquent individual. He was basically one of the best judges of his time. And what happened was he raised his voice a little bit when this in a debate with his opponents. So what ended up happening, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam dismissed him for this. He dismissed him. He dismissed him just because he raised his voice and mistreated somebody a little bit. He also allowed freedom of speech. One of the Khawarij came insultingly to Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, and he said, "Fear Allah, Ya Ali, you are going to die." Imam Ali alayhi salam said, "No, but rather I swear by Allah, I will be killed by a blow to this," and he points to his head. So this man comes to him and says, "You are going to die. You are going to be killed. You will not live longer, much longer." And he simply states, "Of course." And he lets the man go. The man was not punished. A man was once in a gathering with Amir al-Mu'minin, and he had the fate of one of the Jewish Arabs. And this is when Ali alayhi salam was saying, "Ask before I'm gone," you know? We were saying his famous khutbah where he basically said, "I know things and ask me before I'm gone." We all know this khutbah, at least I assume we do. And this Jewish man says, "O claimer of that which he does not know, an imitator of that which he does not understand. I am asking a question, so answer me." So he insulted Ali alayhi salam and then asks him a question. He insulted him and said if he was insulting Omar or Abu Bakr or Uthman, he would have been killed right away. So he was in a very derogatory and insulting way. He was talking to Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. And the companions of Amir al-Mu'minin were offended and they want to go harm this man with their fist or their swords. And Ali alayhi salam said, "Leave him alone and do not rush him. Allah's proofs are not established through recklessness, nor through recklessness do Allah's rational demonstrations become clear." So he answered the man's questions even after the man insulted him. And he said, "At least we have to establish Allah's proof upon him." So we're going to be looking at the war policy. The governments of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam and alayhi. So it was a very humanitarian. Whenever they fought a war, it was always defensive and humanitarian in a way. They did not allow pillaging, they did not allow mutilating or treacherous means. They were not allowed to kill the old or women or the young. They were not allowed to cut down trees. And if any of the Muslims, this could be the lowest ranking of the Muslims, if they told the pagans, "You are going to be protected, there will be no harm coming against you," even if this man was essentially the equivalent to a private in the military, this pagan or this person they were fighting would be given safe pass. He would be taken, given the message of Allah, he would be allowed to convert, or he would be safe even if he did not convert. Even if the lowest of the Muslims did this, and the commanders of the armies had to honor this, or they would be sinning. Just killing in the wars either. You were not allowed to throw poison into the land of the pagans, so you were not allowed to poison their water supply or poison people in general when you were attacking the pagans. Which a common war strategy at this time would be to, especially after this time, introduce diseases to the cities. For example, during the Black Plague in Europe, when the Mongols were invading, they would launch dead corpses with this plague into the cities to poison the people. This is forbidden within Islam. You are not allowed to do this within Islam. Allah's Messenger ﷺ forbade killing women and children unless they were combatants. But even if they were combatants, it is better to restrain them, to not kill them, to stop them from hurting the Muslimin. You're not allowed to kill them. You can only essentially stop them from being out for them. Killing is allowed, but it's restricted. A man became a Muslim during a battle, or if a man becomes a Muslim during a battle, or after a battle, he and his little children and his property is free. His children, possessions, and slaves are his to keep. However, if his slaves were to convert before him, his slaves would be free. The only ones who would not be free are those who are by themselves. So, for example, you have a son who is over the age of is an adult according to Islamic law, or a daughter who is an adult according to Islam. Convert or he does not convert. It's not a different scenario because they are their own people. But if you have children who are under the age, they are protected if you convert. Imagine this. No other country offers protection to the families of enemy combatants. They don't. They just simply don't. So failures of the systems around the Islamic one, they were very unjust at the time. They promoted a ton of corruption, and the rulers lived arrogantly, and they didn't really care about it. The Sasanians and the Romans fought for years upon hundreds of years with each other. Hundreds of years they fought with each other for over some small lands. They promoted corruption in the land. It will always be very corrupt. You were a governor of a Sasanian or Roman province. You were you were essentially given free rein to do what you wanted. As long as you were loyal to the king, you could be as corrupt as you want. We saw the Muslims kicking people out for being even a little bit corrupt. Even a little bit corrupt, they would be kicked out. But then we see the empires around them. They wouldn't even kick people out for corruption. They promoted corruption even. We saw that the rulers lived very arrogantly. They were completely detached from the living situations of the people. This, in my opinion, goes hand in hand with economics, which we'll discuss now, actually. The economic system of the Muslims is a very fair economic system. A worker is given his rights. He has the right to a fair, livable wage. He can demand a fair, livable wage from his boss, and his boss has to provide it for him. Boss in a Muslim country, if you are running a company, running a business, running anything, you have to give fair, livable wages to your people, to your workers. They have to be able to live off of this. If they are unable to, you are violating their rights. You are doing something haram. Now, there is still private property in the Islamic system. You are able to own businesses. You are able to own companies and such. However, you have to treat your workers well. Your workers should not be overworked. Your workers should not be subject to appalling conditions. Your workers should be given basic rights, a livable wage, something which will keep them alive, something which will put food on their plate, put food in the wives of their children, their wives, and their guests, something which will keep them in a house which is livable. We see even in the United States of America, people do not have livable wages. America is arguably the strongest, richest country in world history. The most powerful country on the face of the earth ever. And they can't even afford to give people living wages. Imagine the Islamic system. Nobody went hungry under the government of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. No, not one person starved to death. America is the most powerful, strongest country on the planet in history. And it still has, around 30 million hungry people. 30 million people in the strongest, richest country to ever exist cannot eat every day. And the Islamic system, everybody ate every day. Nobody was homeless. Nobody starved. People were living comfortably. As we already talked about, even the lowliest people eating wheat bread and reclining in the shade. We don't even have some of the top people here. Some of the top earners. I'm not talking about the top 1%, but in America, for example. Even if you're making $90,000 a year, you're middle class, you're very strongly middle class, you will still have economic struggles. Even making $90,000 a year. Muslims were not even making anything close to $90,000 a year. And they were still eating, they were still having housing. The Muslim economic system promoted all sorts of good. There was no oppression in the Islamic economic system. People were always well fed, people always had good conditions, people always had livable wages, people never went homeless. Something we can cover in the next lecture because economics is a very big thing today. The world economy is united. So this is something we'll cover in part 2 of this when we cover the modern implications of Islamic politics. They didn't really care about peace either, as I already said. The Romans and Sasanians, the empires around them at the time, they were fighting for hundreds of years straight, with no peace. And they promoted decadence among society. There was no ban on things which hurt society. These things were allowed, and they harmed society a lot, or both of them. It made men weak. It made men. Alcohol itself is something which makes men and women very susceptible to corrupt rule. This is an example from modern history. The Tsarists in Russia, the kings of Russia, they started producing alcohol to give it to the peasants. Why? A peasant can't fight back or think for himself when he's drunk, huh? So they would produce tons of cheap vodka and give it to the peasants. And this is similar to what many governments do today. They push certain drugs which make you weak, and they make you an idiot pretty much. They promote these sorts of drugs to make people not willing to fight back, to not make people free think. Ethical. They didn't have ethics, such as the Muslims have ethics. They didn't have any of this. The Muslims had ethics of war. The Muslims had ethics in society. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as we covered, he rejected being a king. When people came to him in fear, thinking, "Oh, he's like any other king," he would show them, "I am not a king. I am the son of a mother who ate sun-dried meat." Whether you would go to the Sasanian court or the Roman court and do anything slightly insulting, you would be beheaded. You would be killed. You would be tortured. Imagine in the Islamic system, not one person was tortured. There are some Sunni reports saying that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa tortured people, but these are incorrect. The Sunnis, I'm wondering which one of their cadets tortured people and had to justify it. But there was no torture in the Islamic Empire as there was torture with the Sasanian Empire or the Roman Empire. You look at some of their torture methods, the most disgusting torture. Basically, in conclusion, the Islamic system is ethical. It guarantees people happiness in life. It guarantees that innocent people are protected. It guarantees that society can flourish. On that note, Musa, if you're willing to, I think we should open up Q&A.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If anyone has any questions, we can open up for Q&A.
Are you Shia Visita? Okay. On Islamic systems.
One comment says, "This proves his prophethood," by the way. And the other comment says, "Our prophet is the best of men."
From Brother Lucas, he says, while there were no people passing through famine or in ultra terrible conditions in the Islamic system, will there still be people who are more wealthy and have more conditions than the others? Like, for example, a society where everyone has the basics, but it is possible to achieve more, and therefore there are people who have better conditions than other people. Would this happen or be okay? Or would everyone be equal? This would happen, and this is okay. The Islamic system of economics specifically says that the rich people have to provide for the poor people. There's a hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam where he says if a poor person happens to go hungry, it is the fault of a rich person. The rich people help the poor and they provide for the poor. So there would be people with more, obviously. If somebody was doing more work or doing more valuable work, or they were a merchant or something which would incur a lot of wealth, they would be able to keep this wealth except for the taxes which are mandated as zakat and khums. Other than that, they could keep their wealth. Obviously, it's better for them to give and to live a modest life, but they were able to keep their wealth. So this is a comment from Brother King. Do you think we're able to make a state even without an imam? Personally, I think it's very unachievable to make a state such as this without somebody infallible. When you look at the Islamic system, it is a very perfect, it's almost perfect. No, not almost, it is perfect. You cannot achieve a perfect system without somebody perfect running. We can achieve something close, but it'll never be the same. And if you're asking if I believe it's haram to establish a state or if it's halal to establish a state, I don't wish to comment on that. I haven't really formulated my opinion. Somebody tagged me somewhere. Okay, I think that's pretty much all of the questions that we had.
Good event, man.
We have one more, I think.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Oh, never
Allahumma
mind.
salli ala
Alright, I think I'll take it.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, man.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.